It was another eventful weekend in Europe. First up, Italy, AC Milan with a 3-0 home win over Lecce. Christian Pulisic got the party started with a left-footed strike. LAFC-bound Olivier Giroud and Rafael Leão got the other goals. For Pulisic, it was his 10th league goal of the campaign, which is a career high. His previous best had been the 9 he scored in his first season for Chelsea. He becomes the second American to score double-digit goals in a season in the top 4 European league, the other being Clint Dempsey, who did it twice at Fulham. And I also saw people celebrating this weekend that he is now the most successful American ever to play in Serie A. You had a funny retort to that on X. You channeled your Roger Murdoch.
Oh, yeah, I did the dragging Lanier and who was the other one? Walton up and down the court type of thing. Yeah, look, I mean, it's not even a question, I think, right now. As good as, Michael Bradley was, and obviously what Weston McKennie is doing right now. And there are others that have had cups of tea, and I was only here for a couple of seasons, but I mean, what Christian Pulisic is doing right now should make any American soccer fan proud. I'm happy that this has worked out for him. I'm happy that he has found a place where on the field he is valued so much so that he can even take games off, and they value him so much that he's right back in the starting 11, but also that he's staying healthy. And by all accounts, he seems to be enjoying his time in Italy. It would not surprise me in the least if he extends it, through the next years, because he has become that valuable. And it also, you mentioned, his time in his goal scoring, compare and contrast. I think he's also, sometimes we forget how young he was when he burst on the scene, as we do for a lot of these American players. And they physically have changed. Obviously, the mental part of the game and the growth of the game and the experiences that they have will change them as players. And I think that seeing this more mature Christian Pulisic in the way that he plays the game, and even in the way his body has filled out, sometimes you look at it and say, well, this is as good as it's going to get. Well, I still think that he can get better. And given some of the challenges that he's had in the past years, I'm so glad that he's landed at a place where it's going well for him.
Now, this has been happening all season, but it really percolated this weekend on X. You have Americans throwing Pulisic's success in the face of Chelsea fans, while Chelsea fans are downplaying it because they view Serie A as a wholly inferior league to the Premier League. They think that all that's happened here is he, quote-unquote, found his level, which is a condescending expression they like to use. What do you make of it?
This is so stupid. And, because, we talk about, coaches, for example. Who's the famous basketball coach that's just going now? Everyone's all going crazy.
John Calipari.
John Calipari, right? Well, we talk about coaches, and they have ups and downs. They have good seasons and bad seasons. And just because you have a bad season doesn't mean you're not a quality coach. And the change in circumstances, yes, that is going to impact your fortune. Now, your CV and your history, of course, people are going to look at it, and you're going to try to hedge your bets with what has happened before. But especially when we're talking about these different types of league, it is a different country and culture. It's not just the 90 minutes. It's what you, and oftentimes your significant other, it could be wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it ends up being, a family, kids, adjusting to that country and culture. You could be adjusting to a new language. There are so many different factors that go into whether, when that whistle blows, you are able to be successful. And so I don't think that this should be looked at from an EPL perspective or a Chelsea perspective, in that they didn't get the best out of him. It was the time. It wasn't right. Who knows? Maybe it was positionally where he was, but that this player has emerged now doesn't mean that at that time it was just lurking behind and they didn't have the ability to bring it out. Maybe this is the path that he needed to take to get the best version of Christian Pulisic.
Mosse, incidentally, did not start, came on for Pulisic in the second half. Juventus, meanwhile, claimed a much-needed 1-0 home win over Fiorentina. Gatti with the only goal. McKennie started. Timmy Weah, an unused sub.
Unused sub from Timmy Weah. Yeah, I mean, so in the hierarchy right now of American national team players that are playing in Italy, and by the way, I would have loved to have had some friends in Italy at the time. I mean, on my team, nobody spoke any English, and they're at that point, a long time ago, back in the 1900s, you only allowed 3 foreign players at a time on the field, and so you were like on an island out there. But if you had a hierarchy, I think Christian Pulisic right now is what we just talked about. Then Weston McKennie. Then, what are we doing here? Weah and then Musa, right? I think that would be it.
I could go either way on that.
Yeah.
They've both been subs for their teams, although Musa played this weekend, Weah did not. So maybe Weah is farther down the pecking order at Juventus than Musa is at AC Milan.
But I definitely think both Musa and Weah obviously are looking at their situation right now and saying, all right, do I see a change? And they're probably, and the respective teams are also looking at him saying, hey, is this something that's going to change going forward? And I don't know if it is. I think right now there is a massive separation between the Weston McKennies and Christian Pulisic's and the Musa and Weahs. But look, the fact that they have guys around to hang out with or call or train with and do all that kind of stuff, that's a wonderful advantage.
Next up, we go to the Premier League, where we have a tremendous title race. Arsenal and Manchester City both handled their business this weekend. Arsenal 3-0 away to Brighton, Saka, Havertz, and Trossard with the goals. While City, it was 4-2 away to Crystal Palace, Kevin De Bruyne scoring twice. Then in the match of the weekend, Liverpool was held to a 2-2 draw away to Manchester United. Luis Diaz in the first half, then Bruno Fernandes and Mino overturned matters. A Salah penalty late tied it up again. So the weekend ends with Arsenal and Liverpool at 71. Arsenal ahead on goal difference. City 1 point behind at 70.
And so this has obviously come down to the top three and when that music stops, where they are going to be. A couple months ago, I think, maybe not even, we were talking about Arsenal, and I think both of us at the time said, all right, it's just not going to be there. Now they find themselves certainly in it, and certainly for a lot of people looking at it as even a favorite. And everybody's just waiting for one of these three to drop points, which is ultimately what happened with Liverpool. Man City, obviously, Erling Haaland getting back after what we talked about, and Kevin De Bruyne just being awesome. They should beat Palace. And Arsenal, as good as Brighton can be, should and did the job there. And so when you're looking down at these top three, it's interesting when you get to the Liverpool-Manchester United game, because I think you can make an argument that Liverpool should beat this version in this moment of Manchester United, and yet they weren't able to do that. So what say you, Mosse? How does this change the calculation right now? Is it even more wide open in terms of picking the three? It
is even more wide open. Liverpool were incredibly wasteful in the first half of that match. They should have been up way more than 1-0, and then Kwanzaa makes the mistake early in the second half. Bruno Fernandes, by the way, made that look easier than it was, the way he one-timed that over Keller and into the goal. A couple of thoughts on that match. Mino is the real deal. I hope Gareth Southgate has the courage to start him at the Euros, because he could be that third midfielder alongside Bellingham and Rice. Also, there was a disputed penalty late, Wan-Bissaka on Harvey Elliott. We're going to talk about this again when we discuss El Tráfico, but as you always point out, there does not have to be contact for it to be a foul, but you get into this, did the player go down because he had no choice as he was evading a challenge, or was it a dive? I did not have a huge issue with this call. How did you feel about it?
I didn't have an issue, and while there was controversy in a number of calls this week, I didn't have a huge issue with this. Again, if I take a swing at you, Mosse, and you fall back and avoid my swing, I've still taken a swing at you, all right? It's one thing if you hit the ball. And by the way, just getting the ball, even that in and of itself doesn't necessarily mean that you haven't fouled somebody. So it is kind of wide open for I didn't think of the egregious ones out there in history. I didn't think that this even rose to that level. So I don't know what all the screaming and yelling was about. But in the race for the top and the title, it was obviously significant because it gave Salah the ability to step up and at least salvage 1 point. But this has to be looked at as a loss from Jurgen Klopp and company, and obviously the dropping of 2 points puts everything in play right now.
Before we depart the Premier League, Tyler Adams did not play for Bournemouth against Luton Town due to back spasms, while Gio Reyna only played 10 minutes for Forest against Tottenham, so a step back in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, the good news, I guess, is that it's back spasms. The bad news, I guess, is that Tyler Adams is hurt again. Now, I guess you could look at it as we'd really be concerned if it had something to do with his serious injury in terms of his hamstring. But as we know, bodies compensate. And so is it a situation, and I feel like in the back of my mind, I remember back problems or back spasms being something that he might have had. So maybe it's just a chronic thing, and hopefully he can get it sorted out, and hopefully it has nothing to do with the rest of his equipment when it comes to the hamstring and stuff like that. So I hope that this is a temporary, short-term type of thing.
I mentioned Gio Reyna and Nottingham Forest. They lost away to Tottenham, but they got some good news today because Everton were docked 2 points, dragging them back into the relegation scrum.
What are we at right now? I don't have my calculator.
Is handling this so poorly. Remember, they were docked 10 points initially, got it down to 6 on appeal. Now this is 2 points for a different charge, but they can appeal this. This should not be happening in drips and drabs like this. You got to just figure out what the entire punishment is and do it all at once.
Yeah, I mean... So where does that put them now? So it still has them in a a relegation fight.
Correct.
Right? Wow. I mean, yeah, I think you hit it on the head. Why are we doing this right now? And there will be those that say, well, because you have to give people the benefit of the doubt and you have to go through the process. And this was an outside source that they used to adjudicate this. And to your point, they get to, they're going to fight this and try to have it less, but we're constantly having to do the calculation of where they are. It must be incredibly frustrating for the players and the coach to be in a situation like this where you don't actually know where you are, and therefore you don't actually know what you are or not fighting for. So, because they'd be comfortably in the mid-table right now if none of this had happened.
Correct.
They'll stop breaking the law then.
Staying in England, but dropping down a level to the Championship, Coventry claimed a big 2-1 home win over Leeds United. Haji Wright with another goal in this one.
Haji Wright, man. I mean, Haji is being right. And look, I don't know what has happened, what he is eating, what is going on. This is a good thing. I don't even have to know or understand. This is a player that I think both of us here and a lot of people had written off when it comes, because this is all relative to the national team. And again, I still don't think that this is the answer up top. And we saw a little bit of that in the window. But I'm happy for him. I'm happy that, again, it goes back to what we talked about. He's at a place where they know how to use him. He is obviously comfortable on and off the field, and he is feeling it right now. And I think it's going to be very, very difficult for Greg Berhalter when he starts putting together this list for Copa America for him to keep him off.
Coventry 4 points back of Josh Sargent and Norwich for the last promotion playoff spot. There's also a great battle for the 2 automatic promotion spots. Leeds, Ipswich, and Leicester separated by 2 points. Boy, promotion relegation is fun, huh?
Yeah. Promotion is fun. Relegation is probably not so fun.
Not liking Pro Rel is like not liking Bruce Springsteen.
Exactly. Yeah, in that you get screamed and yelled at and called horrible, horrible names. But you know what? Although if you go on Spotify, when I was in Italy, I recorded a couple of Bruce Springsteen covers for a tribute album to Bruce Springsteen. So you can check that out.
We go to the Netherlands next. PSV with a 5-1 home win over AZ Alkmaar. Serginho Dest with an assist. Malik Tillman with 2 assists. Ricardo Pepi did not play due to a minor injury. You just talked about the battle for center forward spots with the U.S. national team. Pepi making news in the last few days. His agent had some interesting comments. He said this. First of all, there is complete understanding because Luuk de Jong is a phenomenon and we must take our hats off to his achievements. But at the same time, this season is not good enough for Ricardo. 10% of all playing time is, of course, far too little. He understands, is patient, and congratulates Luuk, but for himself, it is not enough. I have never met a player who was happy when he didn't play. If you play so little, you can lose your place in the national team. With the Copa America this year and the World Cup in 2 years' time in your own country, there are 2 great tournaments coming up. Ricardo wants and needs to be there. That's why it can't continue like this. He will have to take a step in his career. That's just normal. Every player wants to continue to grow and reach his full potential. Ricardo obviously prefers to do that at PSV. Ricardo is far from home and wants to have a home in Europe.
Well, this is from his agent?
Yeah.
Well, why the hell did his agent send him there? Did he think that he was going to be better than who's he starting? Or he's not starting?
Luuk de Jong.
Luuk de Jong? No. I mean, did they just figure out that Luuk de Jong is a good player, or did you just think that Pepi was so good that he was going to walk in and get the starting position? So I put it back on the agent. Maybe you poorly advised him in terms of where he has gone. So any repercussion and any challenges that he is now facing are of your own making. In the same way that I would put it on the agent of Gio Reyna, putting him into that crap situation that he's in right now.
Well, that's Jorge Mendes, the biggest agent in the game.
All right. Well, Jorge, why is he there? Why did you put him over there? Why isn't he playing? Why? Your job as an agent is to find the best possible place for your client. And your job as an agent is to understand literally what is happening on the ground over there. All of the dynamics, all of the politics, all of the BS that exists in these places that you are putting your players in. Now, it doesn't mean that players aren't responsible. You can only, you can lead them to water, right? But they have to drink. But if you know who your player is, then you put him or her in the best possible situation. Agents. Can't live with them, can't throw them off a bridge. But
I wonder how Ricardo Pepi superfan Doug McIntyre feels about all this.
He's probably agrees with the agent in that this is not sustainable. And he does. And in that sense, I think what he's setting up is, hey, if this isn't going to change, this isn't where he is going to be going forward. But I don't know why he's bringing up Copa America, because they only have a few games left. They've won the league, and nothing's going to change in terms of his playing time. That's going to change, I think, how Greg Berhalter feels, good or bad, about Ricardo Pepi. If he's not going to play, and then the summer's going to be here. So I don't know what that has to do with Copa America. The bed has been made. You got to lay in it and do the best. And I do think that Pepi has made the best of the situation.
You like that clip? Well, my State of the Union podcast drops twice a week right here on my very own YouTube page. The only way to stay up to date is to hit that subscribe button down below. Size the day, and see you soon.